He's giving it to him. Canelo did not know exactly what he was doing because of the first four things that I gave you. He did not understand the vibration, and because if he did understand the vibration, he would have been able to adapt to it. And if he did understand the fact that this dude is not going to fall for that because he's elite and he has the pedigree, which comes into play. Don't let your fighters go pro without being amateur first. They have to learn so many things. You have to learn all of the things that a fighter must know and take away from the amateur boxing level. Look at this. This is a man who's in quicksand right now in this fight. This film study is basically making it obvious the difference between you guys who've made the choice to get the Bible of boxing and the other guys who just want to watch techniques and think that that's going to be enough. But he's on Quiz Street. The last time he looked like this was when? 2013, when he fought Floyd Mayweather. He didn't understand the vibration in the room. He did not understand how to seduce the fighter. All of those things will come into a placement, into reality again, into fruition. Assess the vibration. Number one. Number two, equate the pulse. Not just check the pulse. Number three, relax. Because what you got to do next is going to take courage. It's going to take wherewithal. It's going to take muscle memory. You cannot learn these things without having repetition in them. That's why he looks like he's in quicksand. Some young man on the page said he was flat-footed and he looked tired. No, that's called he's always flat-footed. And he's exhausted from trying to figure it out. Because this kid is doing what? He continues to walk out of the back door because one thing that Will said is that this young man could have been setting traps, but it's hard to set traps, man, when you haven't equated the pulse or you didn't assess the vibration in the room. All of this stuff, this is from the Bible of boxing. This isn't something, oh, I'm just going to come up with some stuff. That's where we always have the upper hand on fighters, training camps. It doesn't matter where they're coming from. We always got the upper hand. So don't stop studying. Continue to read your manuals. Take an hour that you sit down and watch the videos that you guys all possess, because that'll keep you attached. Because you do have to learn this, because guess what's coming after you leave out of the school of boxing? Coach Kolazar, Coach Himmelberg, and Paul Haraber are all in the top trainer positioning because they're learning how to run their entity of their business, the programming. Now, if you get detached, what's going to happen when you got to start all over? Because this book means very little when you go up into Prize Fighter U and professionals start going into your gym. We have over 300 fighters that contact our page, our website every week, right? Facts. You know this. We are the epicenter of boxing education. When you are being shouted out on our feeds where thousands of people are watching every time, I'm sitting there eating breakfast, 3,000 people tuned in. When I'm telling people about you, these professional fighters that are already in camps, they're down here, they're out west, they're up north. They're all catching a read on who you guys are, because they're in positions that they're all thinking, man, I might need to go to that guy. If I shout out Kolazar enough times, they know he's going to have a gym because they're going to have checked it out. They're going to show up. You got to be ready for Prize Fighter U. Prize Fighter U book, going to make this book look like a pamphlet, because the professional prize fighter game is advantageous that you have, but it makes the amateur boxing levels look like
Sorry,
A
could you say
pamphlet.
that again?
Biggest
Sorry,
thing.
I'm having trouble hearing you.
Oh, that's my watch. So be prepared to get used to this because you want to be like the Emmanuel Stewarts of the game. Now watch Canelo. Now watch what he does. When he gets right here, he's pumping his shots. He's gassed. His arms are exhausted because he's punching hard every time. And so now he wants to go and do what he did to Callum Smith. Punch him in the shoulder, which is a great technique if the guy is affected by it. But the difference is the dexterity in his body. So I don't want y'all guys to get caught up in, oh, well, he should have did this or he should have did that. Technique means nothing if you don't understand the concepts and theory now. What's going on with this dude is he's fighting his big brother. And if you got a little brother or a nephew, why won't they beat you? Because your weight's settled. You're a grown man. He's a little boy. He can hit Callum Smith because Callum Smith is 6'3", but full of holes. And when he hit him, that dude affected it. And Canelo is short and compact, and that makes all the difference. And you got to be able to strip him of his comfort. Does Bivol look frustrated? Doesn't he look comfortable? Elaborate on that. When I say strip him of his comfort, elaborate on what that means. Let me see you guys in the comment box. Yes, Coach Colazar makes it clear that Bivol had nearly 300 amateur fights. Do you understand the difference between a guy who's not fought over 30 fights as an amateur and a guy who's went to bed thinking of the guy he got to fight tomorrow in a tournament over and over and over again? A guy who's gotten booed, a guy who's had to make weight, a guy who sat there and had physicals, a guy who's had sponsors approaching him, a guy who's had an avid amount of experiences, wins, losses, draws, knowing how to deal and cope with these things. The difference and the leverage that gives a man when you're fighting a guy who has absolutely no amateur experience. Come on. Y'all got to stay up with me in the school of boxing. That's the difference between those guys out there that you're going to be going up against. And you guys, you are coming from Mount Rushmore. Don't ever forget this tagline. When you come from a lineage of over 200 titles, you're not afraid to go get the smoke because you actually have the play-by-play guide. All you got to do is continue to go to this guy and just read. Training camp, key principles of boxing. Here's a message from your coach. The boxing playlist, which tells you how to do every single round. 12 rounds. All right? That's when you're first entering. When you are in the next tier of it, when you're doing that for prize fighter, you're going to be like, I thought everything that I had was the pinnacle of it. It's just the beginning. I did this and that prize fighter that was done. I wrote that book in about 2 weeks. But it was about 11 hours a day from all of the experiences. Now, you just look at this guy. He lets them out of the back door. This is what happens when fighters truly don't know what the heck they're doing. Let me see. Colazar, strip comfort. He takes away Canelo's strengths. He stripped his offense effectiveness away. Then he even walked him down. And that made Canelo even more tired. And the reality is this, coach. So you know this. So jot this down. You guys will be able to get a replay for the guys who are in the school of boxing watching this. If Bivol didn't hit him, he would have zapped himself. Look at how he's leaning into all of his punching. Boxing isn't about hitting. Boxing is about hitting, pop, 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 having the... Who remembers the Art of Sparring download that came with the guide? Who remembers that? Okay? Did you see the variations of punches? The science of counterpunching. You remember that? We taught you how to touch a guy, peck and poke, flow flurries, things like that, that also check the man's mind, body, and soul. There are three elements to boxing. When Mayweather got hit by Shane Mosley, one of the guys that I was doing business with yesterday down in Fort Lauderdale, where you guys will be all coming who come to visit, we're going to take you over here to this epicenter, said this guy took a punch that could have blew the head off an elephant, and he was able to recover and bring back the fortitude. That wasn't skill. That wasn't anything other than fortitude. That's what made Sugar Ray Leonard give it up and say, this guy could have existed in any era. Because when you could take a punch like that and come back from an entirely, I mean, this dude came out of a coma halfway down, falling. That was Mayweather. That's what we're talking about boxing. Screw the name. Just understand the fortitude. Sometimes the guy that's going to walk into your gym is going to be the guy that has that thing that has no name. He's special. Pacquiao. You can't identify with all of the qualities. Hell, man, we did 5 years of sparring and training with this dude. And you're talking about a master boxing fighter who's highly skilled at the highest levels of boxing. Pacquiao were closing the gap. I said, Shad, what's good with you, man? This dude closing the gap faster than anybody. Yeah, he would recover, but we got the image. Mark Wahlberg was right there in the corner. You'll see the video. I'll show it to you. Just watching. He was doing the movie at the time, The Fighter, and was down there over in Wildcard just watching, right in the corner. He's in the picture. And Pacquiao was just bah, 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 bah. But guess what my fighter did know how to do? He knew how to get out the back door. And that's one of the reasons Pacquiao had so much success against De La Hoya, cutting the ring off, because Shad was opening the back door and getting out of there. Canelo is sitting on the ropes, not only because he's tired, because he's exasperated from throwing punches that he should have been using the techniques that we use in the art of sparring and the science of counterpunching. I can't say it enough in those videos. I can't watch any of my old videos that I did without thinking, wow, I was thinking of everything. I watched my fighter get hit in the face by Hasim Rahman, and Hasim Rahman knocked out Lennox Lewis cold with one punch. You think on that. I understand there is a way to hit a guy that he remembers or don't remember that he's been hit for real, but there's also a way that you can hit a guy in ways that takes his fight away because he's being hit where he can't see the punches coming from and the swarming. So if you're watching this guy right now, we're on number 5, where you strip your opponent. See, technique is one thing. The base of your thought process is another. And this is where guys like Emmanuel Stewart had so much advantage. He took Klitschko from getting knocked out twice to never being knocked out again. Emmanuel Stewart went undefeated with Klitschko after that loss to Corey Sanders. He beat everybody else because it was a system. The same thing that you guys are in. You understand that, right? Nobody could figure out how to beat Klitschko. Nobody could figure out how to beat Lennox Lewis. When Emmanuel Stewart took the wheel, forget about it. You're talking about a god. Oliver McCall, before Emmanuel Stewart got with Lennox, Oliver McCall, who was in our training camp, who came down and was in our training camp, knocked out Lennox Lewis because Emmanuel Stewart was in his corner. They fell out. Emmanuel Stewart went to Lennox Lewis's camp. And the very next fight, Lennox Lewis causes Oliver McCall to have a mental breakdown in the ring and gets his belt back. Because he's not taking skills and not taking science over there. He's taken the system and applied it over there. And that's what Canelo doesn't have. Look at this. Does this look like the guy who truly, truly understands boxing like that? There's one guy that understood it. No matter what situation he was in, he was coming out of it because he had body, mind, body, and soul. And he proved it. In this era, he was the GOAT in this era, along with Pacquiao. They 1A and 1B. But to not lose basically says, no matter what you think, is that he had something nobody else did, and it was the Bible. When you got 3 generations, that's what it'll take, and that's what you guys have over here in the School of Boxing. You got 3 generations. Y'all are generation 4. So pay close attention, read your manuals, put some of that other stuff down, because if you're going to do this at the highest level, you got to study, you got to learn, you got to read, you got to watch those videos, because those videos came from being in the real highest level of boxing, amateur and professional, and understanding the business at the same time. That's why we always advise y'all to never, ever sleep on what it is you got. You have the Bible of boxing. Now I'm going to go through the next and the last 4 things that you got to know. All right? Get your pads out and understand the definitions of all of this. You won't get these opportunities. So don't take them light. Learn boxing.